What's up and welcome back to another video. My name is Miles Away. Now today, I want to cover for you the amazing new Poly Verbs pedal. Now, what is the Poly Verbs and why might you be interested? Well, the Poly Verbs is one of, if not the first, full convolution stereo reverbs in a small pedal form factor like this. Now, today, I want to do this demo a little bit differently because frankly, there aren't too many controls to go over with the Poly Verbs. Part of the fun of this pedal and why it's so inspiring is by going through the Poly Verbs and its built-in impulse responses, learning where they're from and hearing how they can transform your sound and place it in a real space. Huge shout out to Poly for sending me this pedal and having me do the synthesizer demo for it. As always, thank you so much for watching. Let's jump to the demo track and get started. All right, well, hopefully you enjoyed that demo track. You know the drill by now. Every single reverb effect in that song was made using only the Poly Verbs and its built-in impulse responses. Now, before we jump to exploring the different convolution reverb IRs, I wanted to take a quick moment and mention that impulse responses and convolution reverb is not a new thing, but rather it's a new thing in the guitar pedal world. Now, since there's a bunch of great demos of this on guitar already, I did want to mention a couple of really important new synth-specific highlights. The first, Poly have added in the newest firmware the ability to kill dry, meaning to use this pedal perfectly as a send. Secondly, they've now added the ability to go mono in, stereo out, which is huge because that's pretty much a requirement if you're going to be using a mono synth like a Moog and trying to get stereo reverb out of it to create space. All right, so here we are on the front panel of the Poly Verbs, and we've got our guidebook here for the journey we're about to go on. So I just want to go over the controls really quickly because they're quite simple and also play you my dry sound. So I'm using this patch I made on the third wave. Really, really beautiful, simple dry sound. Let's bring in the Poly Verbs mix with this slider. Awesome. So next, we have a couple other controls. We have low cut. We want to just high pass our reverb. Really useful because some of these real spaces do get very bassy, but I also try to keep it off most of the time because you get a really natural sounding reverb when you do not enable this. And I think that's the whole point of this pedal, is to be as natural sounding as possible. Onset is like pre-delay. If we max that out with nothing. And smush is kind of like I'm not sure exactly how it works, but it's a granular style way to extend the tails longer than they should go. Really, really nice for ambience. And it's cool that it has this option because this takes it away from being as natural. Can get rid of it there, but in exchange, you get a more of an ambient sound. So let's dive in. Like I mentioned, we've got this amazing manual here, and we're basically going to learn about each of the different algorithms. Now, I'm not going to go through every single one because part of the fun is discovering them for yourselves, but I'm going to go through some of my favorites and discover hopefully some new favorites along the way. So right off the bat, let's start off with that amazing sound that we heard in the intro. This is the Inch and Down Oil Tanks, which is the longest natural reverb in the world. It just blows my mind that this is a real space. And immediately when I heard this, I was instantly inspired. I've never heard a natural reverb that sounds like this. Simply beautiful. Let's check out some other ones within this pool of the blackstar. So all of them are categorized into these different 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 categories. And that's kind of a way to organize them by themes. Let's jump to the very first one here, pool of the blackstar. Really, really nice. I like a lot of these reverbs. I like really wet to hear what they're doing. Listen to that, real space. So pool of the blackstar, that one sounds great. Let's move on to some of the caves. So the rock formations are really cool. So we can check out here our first one, which is Capricornia Caves, a maze of limestone caves located at about 23 kilometers north from Queensland, Rockhampton. That's beautiful. Turn my filter down a little bit. You can kind of get a vibe of these reverbs, even a short one like this, just so much character to them. I'm gonna jump to another one of my favorites here, just to show you that this is not all real spaces. Let's go over to the analog devices and listen to some of the amazing spring reverbs that we have. Now listen to that drip. Let's go through a couple more of them. Oh, so drippy. Now, spring reverb is always one of the hardest types of reverb to do digitally. That one's not as drippy. Let's go to 4. Let's try this one. Oh, that's cool, an oil can delay. So as we can see here, we've got a great collection of not only real spaces, but also analog devices and echo plates and irregular things like that. So let's play with this oil can delay for a little bit. I've been talking a lot. So cool. So this is the Santa Lucia Basilica in Italy, and it sounds incredible. This has to be one of my favorites. Try playing with a little bit of the low cut on this, a little bit of smush. I really like this one. That's got to be one of the best ones. I'm in love with that. And again, you can just see going through these is really so inspiring because we can kind of see every single one that we have at our options at our fingertips here. Let's jump completely differently and check out some of these irregular reverbs. And like I mentioned, you can capture impulse responses from anything. So let's check out a new one that was added, the Apollo 8 radio chatter from the Apollo 8 space mission. Let's check that out. So we go here up top, irregular verbs. number 4. Let's hear this one. Let's turn it up again. That is so cool. Okay, let's turn our sound into a pad. Whoa. Without it? Space exploration. Woo! Okay, that one's getting crazy. That one's getting crazy because it goes for so long. Let's just kill that there. It goes for so long that it's a real space, right? Every single key I'm pressing, and the third wave has 24 voices, is creating this crazy long 30 seconds of Apollo moon mission chatter. It's probably still going. Okay, it just stopped. That's a really cool one. Let's check out this spinning coin next. Oh, listen to that. That's really cool. That's almost like a diffused, like granular type of reverb, kind of like the Strymon cloud. This might be my favorite one so far. How funny is it that a spinning coin is creating one of the most beautiful reverbs I've ever heard in my life? Let's go minor. That's so cool. Okay, let's jump all the way back to some of the real spaces here. Let's see what sounds interesting here. Abandoned cooling tower in Belgium. So this one in the small Belgian town of Charleroi. See if my French accent is good still after years of not speaking French. I regret that, by the way. Sits an abandoned power station. The giant cooling tower still looms large over the town. Like, come on, it sounds so natural. If I take off the reverb, boring sound. I'm like beyond amazed that this sounds so vibey and clear and defined with no low cut. Pluck notes. I've got to stop saying this, but I think this might be my new favorite. I feel like every time I change my mind on this, but that's a good sign that they're great. Oh wait, does this have diffusion? Like, does this have like delays in it? Echoes? No way, that's so cool. So it's basically, I guess, taking a lot of time for the echo to get from the bottom of the cooling tower to the top or wherever they recorded it. That is such a cool sound. All right, let's wrap up with a couple more sounds here from the echo plates, because we haven't really looked at too many of those yet. So echo plate number 1 here is going to be an EMT plate, and As a music nerd and a reverb nerd, I had a ton of fun going through these because these are some of the most famous and iconic plate reverbs ever created. So here's the EMT 140 plate from 1957. Let's bring down the filter again. Like, it's great to have these kinds of classic, tried and true reverbs that have been on so many records and oftentimes cost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. For example, Brocasti M7. For those of you that don't know, Brocasti is one of the leaders in rack reverb, and their reverbs are insanely expensive, but have a reputation for sounding fantastic. So now we have a Brocasti M7 inside this pedal. Nothing? That's super natural. Let's open it up a little bit. That's an awesome one. See, that right there is the kind of reverb that you can record anything through. Guitar, vocals, synths, and like I mentioned at the outset of the video, this kind of reverb will just give your sound a more organic, more natural space that it exists in. All right, well, I could get lost doing that all day, but there is one more part of the pedal that I want to mention, which is extremely important, and that is the ability to load in your own impulse responses. As you can see, this completely expands the pedal, and we can get some absolutely amazing sounding impulse responses for different places that different people have captured. So after plugging in the USB drive, we get to our custom IRs by clicking this logo, and just like that, we now have a custom reverb we've loaded in. I've loaded in one of my favorite ambient algorithms ever, the Strymon Cloud for my Big Sky pedal, and it sounds like this. Now, there's a great video from Poly showing you how you can capture your own impulse responses in a traditional way with a balloon. Me, on the other hand, I want to use this in a more non-traditional way. So of course, I'm going to get my partner in crime and the manager of this YouTube channel, Ruffles the Cat, and we're going to sample him at dinner time. Good kitty. Now, after cleaning up a bit of background noise in Logic and trimming the silence at the end and the beginning, we now have what we've always wanted, a custom Ruffles the Cat reverb. Let's jam on it. Ruffles! We've got the cat meow as a reverb. Let's jam on this. All right, well, hopefully you enjoyed the Ruffles reverb, But let's wrap up the video with some basic pros and cons. On the pros, if you haven't used Convolution Reverb before, if you're more of a guitar player or a live keyboard player, you will be in for a treat because the sound quality is astounding on the Poly Verbs. It sounds incredible, and some of these reverbs, I forgot for a second that I was listening to a recording of a real place, like that extremely long one that I started the video with. Incredible sounding. My second pro is a bit of an odd one, but if you're still watching this video up to this point, firstly, thank you. Secondly, you'll know exactly what I mean. The way that the manual is laid out with all of the places and all of the different pieces of gear, what you're getting with this library is so inspiring, and I had so much fun just exploring all of the different spaces that have been curated here, because at the end of the day, a convolution reverb, yes, it's extremely important to load in your own samples and IRs, but at the end of the day, it also lives and dies by its library, and this has to be one of the most well-rounded and unique libraries around. I know for me personally, I had such a great time discovering which of these spaces spoke to me the most musically and inspired me the most, and some of them, like the inch and down oil tanks and some of those spring reverbs, I know for a fact I'll be using over and over on countless records going forward. On the con side, there's really only one, and how much of a con it is going to depend on you and what kind of pedals or plugins you like to use and already have. And that is, the Poly Verbs is absolutely more of a specialist, a character piece, rather than a jack of all trades. The Poly Verbs, in my humble opinion, is the perfect second pedal to add to a synth rig. With this paired with any DSP reverb of your choice, even a free plugin like Valhalla Supermassive, you can definitely get pretty much any reverb sound you would want, because there are certain things that Convolution Reverb just does so much better, but at the same time, I would find myself missing those epic, airy DSP, endless ambient reverb trails from something like a Mercury X or a Strymon Big Sky. But that's where I'm gonna wrap this up for today. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks again to Poly for sending me the verbs. I hope you enjoyed. If you do wanna grab your own Poly Verbs, again, the link is in the description, and I will see you in the next video.